These are real images captured from researchers who have found Egypt's sunken city, Thonis-Heracleion. For over 1,000 years, it was completely lost beneath the waves of the Mediterranean Sea, remembered only as a myth in ancient Greek texts, a legend swallowed by the ocean. But these divers didn't just find a few scattered stones in the mud. They found an entire sprawling cosmopolitan metropolis lying perfectly frozen on the ocean floor. They found colossal 18-foot statues, dozens of sunken ships, gold coins, and massive stone tablets detailing the taxes of an ancient empire. But looking at algae-covered granite at the bottom of the sea only tells half the story. What was it actually like to stand on those docks before the ocean swallowed them? Using these exact marine surveys, surviving ancient tax decrees, and advanced AI reconstruction, we are going to drain the waters of the Abu Qir Bay. We are going to step back 2,400 years and experience a single, unbroken 24-hour period in the Venice of the ancient world. We are talking about the absolute gateway to the pharaohs, a city built entirely on fragile islands and connected by pontoon bridges where Greek mercenaries and Egyptian priests violently collided. Imagine navigating a labyrinth of canals, enforcing the ruthless maritime laws of the ancient world, and living with the terrifying daily reality that the ground beneath your feet is actively sinking. Let's step back into the lost city. The year is 380 BC. The sky over the Nile Delta turns a pale, misty violet. You wake up not to the sound of chariots on stone streets, but to the gentle, rhythmic lapping of water against wooden pylons. You are an overseer of the port, a high-ranking Egyptian official fluent in both the ancient tongue of the pharaohs and the rapid-fire Greek of the Mediterranean merchants. You live in a comfortable two-story house built of sun-baked mud brick and imported cedar, perched directly on the edge of a major canal. There are no wide, paved avenues here. Thonis-Heracleion is a fragmented jigsaw puzzle of dozens of small clay islands, separated by deep waterways and connected by a massive network of creaking wooden bridges and small ferries. You step out onto your wooden balcony. The air is incredibly humid, carrying the thick, earthy smell of the Nile's marshlands, mixing with the sharp tang of salt from the nearby sea. The city is waking up in a blanket of thick morning fog. Fishermen in long, narrow papyrus skiffs are already gliding silently through the canals, casting weighted linen nets into the dark water to catch Nile perch and tilapia. You splash your face with fresh water from a clay jug, dress in a crisp, pleated white linen kilt, and clasp a heavy collar of lapis lazuli around your neck, your badge of office. By 7 a.m., the fog burns off, and the sheer, deafening scale of the global economy hits you. You board a small, beautifully painted wooden barge rowed by 4 servants, and you head toward the Grand Customs House located on the primary northern island. Thonis-Heracleion is the absolute, mandatory bottleneck of the ancient world. Every single foreign ship entering Egypt from the Mediterranean is legally required to stop right here before they can sail down the Nile to the inner cities. You stand on the massive wooden docks, surrounded by a chaotic, polyglot army of dockworkers, scribes, and foreign sailors. A massive Athenian merchant galley, its square linen sail stained with salt, drops its heavy stone anchors into the harbour. The Greek captain steps off his ship, looking exhausted from the crossing. He is carrying a leather chest filled with silver tetradrachms, Athenian owl coins. He wants to buy Egyptian grain, the absolute best wheat in the world, to feed his starving city back home. But nothing moves in this city without your permission. You approach the Greek merchant, flanked by 2 heavily armed Egyptian guards carrying bronze-tipped spears. You do not negotiate, you dictate. You point to a massive, towering slab of solid black granite erected right on the docks. This is the decree of Naucratis. It explicitly states that every single piece of silver, every log of timber, and every jar of wine brought into this port is subject to a strict 10% royal tax. Your scribes unroll sheets of papyrus. They meticulously weigh the Greek's silver on highly calibrated bronze scales. They inspect his cargo of fine olive oil and painted pottery. You calculate the fractions in your head, extracting the pharaoh's cut on the spot. The Greek captain grumbles in his native tongue, but he complies. If he argues, his ship is seized, and his crew is imprisoned. The staggering, unimaginable wealth generated on these very docks is what funds the massive armies of the Egyptian state. You are the toll collector at the gates of the richest empire on earth. By 11 a.m., the Mediterranean sun is blazing, reflecting fiercely off the water of the canals. You leave the chaotic, shouting docks and cross a wide pontoon bridge toward the absolute center of the city. You are approaching the great temple of Amun. The contrast between the fragile, muddy islands and this structure is mind-bending. The temple is built of colossal, flawless blocks of red granite and white limestone, materials that had to be floated hundreds of miles down the river from the quarries of Aswan. It is a fortress of stone sitting in a sea of mud. Guarding the massive outer pylons of the temple are colossal statues of the pharaoh and a Ptolemaic queen, standing over 18 feet tall, staring blankly out toward the sea. You walk beneath their massive shadows and enter the temple courtyard. This is not just a place of prayer, it is the political anchor of the entire dynasty. When a new pharaoh takes the throne, they must travel to this exact temple to receive the divine right to rule from Amun, the king of the gods. The air inside the courtyards is thick with the intoxicating, heavy smoke of frankincense and burning myrrh. You watch as high priests, their heads shaved completely bald for purity, wash the inner statues of the gods with sacred Nile water and clothe them in garments of woven gold thread. The rituals are exact, precise, and entirely unbending. If the priests skip a single chant, the gods will abandon the city, the Nile will fail to flood, and the empire will starve. The spiritual weight pressing down on these stone floors is absolute. By 2 p.m., you cross another series of bridges into the northern district. The entire atmosphere of the city completely shifts. You have entered the Hellenion, the Greek quarter. Thonis-Heracleion is a city with a split personality. The Egyptians call it Thonis, the Greeks call it Heracleion. The pharaohs, desperate for highly trained, heavily armored soldiers to fight off the invading Persian Empire, have invited thousands of Greek mercenaries and merchants to live here permanently. The architecture here changes from Egyptian mud brick to Greek-style wooden colonnades. You walk past a magnificent fluted marble temple dedicated to the Greek hero Heracles. The cultural blending is fascinating and highly pragmatic. The Greeks believe Heracles first set foot in Egypt on this very island, so they worship him here. The Egyptians simply equate Heracles with their own god, Khonsu. It is a brilliant, unspoken theological compromise that keeps the two vastly different populations from killing each other in the streets. You stop at a bustling tavern built on a wide wooden pier extending out over the water. The noise is deafening. Greek hoplites, veteran soldiers wearing bronze greaves and carrying heavy circular shields are drinking massive clay cups of imported Aegean wine mixed with water. They are laughing, rolling dice made of sheep bone, and eating grilled octopus and flatbreads. You sit at a wooden table in the shade of a linen awning. The tavern owner, a Greek man who has lived in Egypt his entire life, brings you a plate of roasted duck and a cup of thick, sweet Egyptian beer. You observe the crowd. The Egyptians view the Greeks as somewhat barbaric, unwashed, and overly loud. The Greeks view the Egyptians as obsessed with death and strange animal gods. But right here, over cups of wine and silver coins, they need each other. The Greeks need Egyptian grain to survive, and the Egyptians need Greek bronze swords to protect their borders. It is a city built entirely on mutual, heavily armed cooperation. By 6 p.m., the sun begins to set, casting long, spectacular shadows across the network of islands. But the city does not quiet down. Tonight is the beginning of the most sacred and spectacular event of the year, the Mysteries of Osiris. You walk down to the grand ceremonial canal that connects the great temple of Amun to the neighboring city of Canopus, a few miles away. The canal banks are lined with tens of thousands of people. Every single citizen of Thonis-Heracleion, Egyptian and Greek alike, is holding a small, flickering oil lamp. The water of the canal becomes a mirror, reflecting 100,000 tiny flames. It looks as though the stars have fallen to the earth. Suddenly, the massive temple gates swing open. The priests carry out a magnificent gilded shrine containing the statue of Osiris, the god of the underworld and rebirth. They load the shrine onto a spectacular, massive ceremonial barge made of woven papyrus and cedar, entirely covered in gold leaf. But this barge does not sail alone. Marine archaeologists mapping this exact canal have found the remains of over 70 ancient shipwrecks perfectly lined up in the mud. Many of these were not sunk by storms. They were deliberately, ceremonially sunk as part of this exact festival. You stand on your balcony, watching the procession. 34 beautifully decorated papyrus boats fall into line behind the god's barge. Musicians beat tambourines and shake bronze sistrums, the rhythmic metallic clashing echoing over the water. Choirs of priestesses sing haunting, ancient hymns of mourning and resurrection. The entire flotilla begins its slow, majestic glide down the fire-lit canal toward Canopus. It is a breathtaking, overwhelmingly beautiful display of absolute faith. They are reenacting the death and rebirth of the earth itself, surrounded by the dark, encroaching waters of the Mediterranean. By 10 p.m., the procession has faded into the distance. The city of Thonis-Heracleion settles into the dark. The only sounds are the creaking of the wooden docks and the distant muffled songs from the Greek taverns. You return to your mud brick home. You lie down on a low wooden bed, resting your neck on a curved alabaster headrest to catch the cool night breeze blowing through the slatted windows. But as you lie there in the dark, you feel it. It is incredibly faint at first. A subtle, deep vibration coming not from the air, but from the earth beneath you. A clay cup on a small table rattles for a fraction of a second. You sit up, your heart beating slightly faster. The people of Thonis-Heracleion live with a dark, terrifying secret. The city is an architectural miracle, but it is built on a geological time bomb. The islands are not made of bedrock. They are made of soft, highly unstable Nile clay. And the Egyptians have spent centuries piling millions of tons of colossal granite statues, towering limestone temples, and massive stone walls directly on top of this soft mud. When the earth tremors, which it does frequently in this region, that soft clay undergoes a horrifying process called soil liquefaction. For a few terrifying seconds during a quake, the solid ground literally turns into liquid soup. The massive granite temples slowly, inevitably sink an inch deeper into the mud every year. You walk to your window and look out over the dark water. The water level in the canals has been slowly creeping higher during your lifetime. You have seen ancient, abandoned docks that are now completely submerged. The sea is hungry. You know deep down that the incredible wealth, the colossal statues, and the brilliant diplomacy cannot stop the ocean. You are living in a temporary paradise, a masterpiece of human will perched on the edge of the abyss. You go back to sleep, trusting the gods to hold the water back for just one more day. That was 24 hours in Thonis-Heracleion. It was not just a mythological legend. It was a vibrant, loud, and incredibly wealthy reality. It was a city where the ancient world came to trade, to pray, and to build impossibly heavy monuments on impossibly fragile ground. A few centuries later, the inevitable finally happened. A catastrophic combination of major earthquakes and massive tidal waves struck the Nile Delta. The ground completely liquefied. The colossal granite statues, the massive temples, and the bustling customs houses simply collapsed into the mud and were swallowed entirely by the Mediterranean Sea. The water closed over the Venice of the ancient world, erasing it from the map for over a millennium. But the sea is a strange preserver. By dragging the city into the oxygen-free mud, the ocean protected it from the ravages of war, from being dismantled for building materials, and from the shifting sands of time. It froze this magnificent crossroad exactly as it was, waiting quietly in the dark for us to finally find it again. This video is brought to you by the Paladin Learn History app.